Hi, beautiful people. Welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for clicking on this video as usual. And if you are here and you are an old subscriber, thank you so much for clicking. Thank you for the support. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate you. And if it's your first time here, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is an amazing community where I share a lot of useful immigration related information. And in a couple of days, I will be beginning to share something very special to you guys. Well, that's special to me rather. And of course, as time goes on, I will definitely introduce you guys to what I have in mind. Now, today, as you may have already seen from the thumbnail, we are having a special guest in the house. Okay, she is a Nigerian who currently lives in New Zealand. She migrated to New Zealand as a student. She's currently working, and so we have brought her here today to share her experience and how you can also come to New Zealand as a student, okay, and migrate permanently, either with your family or alone. She's going to be sharing from her personal experience because she has been through this process. And I feel like there's no better person to actually guide you, right? If you're watching me right now and New Zealand is the country of your dreams, then she's the best person to guide you by sharing useful information, tips, and updated info basically that can help you make your own journey so much easier. So at this point, I'm going to be welcoming her into this live session. And
transmission.
it's okay. We've already started. So could you quickly introduce yourself so we can get started? We don't have so much time.
All right, yeah. So I am the sassy engineer. That's how people call me. And I live here in New Zealand. Currently, I'm from Nigeria as well. And just like I'm also a YouTuber here, but I live in New Zealand. So I have my YouTube channel is also called the Sassy Engineer. So people call me Sassy if you can't pronounce the full thing. So either Sassy or the Sassy Engineer is fine. Yeah. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you. Looks like it's fading at some point, but I can hear you.
Oh, just let me know when you don't hear me. I can repeat myself.
It's okay. You can go ahead. I heard everything you said.
Oh, okay.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for that brief introduction. Just before we get into answering some questions, I would like to ask you, okay, so people can have an overview of where you're at currently and how you happen to get there. So, can we know more about you in terms of how did you get into New Zealand and what are you currently doing? Also, how many years has it been since you've been in New Zealand?
I've been here for a while, man. I came to New Zealand to study. So I did my
Okay.
PhD. Yeah, I did my PhD here in New Zealand. That's what brought me here to the country. And I'm done with my studies, so I'm now a doctor, by the way. Yeah, and then I'm currently working now in New Zealand. So the main thing that brought me here
Okay.
to New Zealand was study.
Oh,
From
okay. So you
Nigeria,
you
by the
traveled.
way. I
Say what?
traveled
Come
from
again.
Nigeria. I traveled from Nigeria to New Zealand to study.
Amazing. So you studied PhD, right? You
Yeah,
traveled to study PhD. Oh,
I
that's
did.
amazing. That's amazing. There are a lot of people pushing through that route. More people are looking at bachelor, so it's really good to get your perspective coming from PhD angle. So now, I would say, what inspired you to choose New Zealand as your study destination?
Money.
Did you say money?
Yes, I said money. Yes. And when I tell people
Okay.
that, they're like surprised. Yeah, it was money. Because
Hmm.
as you know, everything is expensive now. New Zealand is quite not even just New Zealand. International students pay a lot of money to study abroad, whichever country it is. You're definitely going to be paying. And sometimes the amount of fees you pay is twice what the
Hmm.
domestic students pay. And this
Tell
is
me
per
about it.
annum, per year. So
Absolutely.
the perks about New Zealand, which is one of the reasons that makes New Zealand attractive for international students at that level, is the fact that you can study, your tuition fee is the same as a domestic student. So instead of paying £17,000 like you have in the UK or $50,000 if you are going to US, again, it depends on what you're studying, to be honest. New Zealand we
Oh
pay
yeah.
as, yeah. New Zealand we pay fees like domestic students, which is helpful. But
That's
again,
for
if
PhD,
say that
right?
again,
At the PhD level.
just the PhD level. Every other thing below that, you pay international student fees. And if we were not going to be paying, if New Zealand did not have that policy in place, which hopefully the new government would not change that. But if New Zealand did not have the policy in place, I would probably have been paying at least $40,000 per annum.
Yeah, I'm very much aware. The tuition fee for bachelor's and a master's degree in New Zealand is quite on the high side compared to
It
a lot
is.
of other European countries, you know.
Yes,
But
it is.
we're glad that there is a PhD opportunity for anyone who already has a very affordable rate. I would also like to ask you, is it possible, are you aware of the possibility of traveling for a PhD with just a bachelor's degree? Because I've gotten a lot of questions asking, people asking questions like, can I apply for PhD in New Zealand with just a bachelor's degree? Do you know if that's possible?
Do they have bachelor's honors? That's the question. It's not just any bachelor degree. So in Nigeria, if you are a first class bachelor's, like if you're a graduate and you graduated with first class, you can go straight to PhD. Something like that applies here. It's not just anybody that can go straight to PhD. You need to prove that you are that your education is your grades are good enough to go straight to PhD. The people that do that, oh, I lost you for a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I good.
yeah,
Did you hear my last
yeah.
question?
Yeah, so as I was saying, I was talking about the last question. So the people that actually the people that do that are bachelor's honors. So what that means is you graduated at a high qualification, so high that you can just go straight to PhD. It's the same thing as saying bachelor's first class. So if the person is nothing nothing at that level or above, they cannot.
So are you saying someone with a 2-1, let's say a strong
Cannot.
2-1, 4.0
You cannot.
and above, can apply for PhD
No.
from bachelor's?
No. The likelihood,
Oh wow, it has
the probable answer will be a no. It has to be a first class. So,
first
but
class.
I would not be the
Okay.
one to make that decision. They will look at your qualification. Obviously, they would compare it to their own qualification. The minimum standard for here is bachelor honors. That's what it's called. So, not
Okay.
just regular bachelor's degree. So that one means if they do a bachelor, which is 3 years, depending on the program that they're studying, and then they have one extra year where they do something at the level of masters, and then they go straight to PhD.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, moving on to the next question. How would you say your application process was for your study visa? Generally speaking, just briefly so we can move on.
Yeah. So when I applied for my PhD, things were still a bit manual then. I think it was 2 years after that everyone could now apply online. But when I applied for my visa, you needed to post your visa to a different country, South Africa at the time.
Wow.
So it
Are
was
you
very
kidding?
stressful. No, it's the
That's
truth. Yeah.
so you
So
had
that's
to
why
go there,
no,
or
you
you
don't
had
have
to
to. You don't post. If you want to go to South Africa, that's fine. You need a visa as a Nigerian. But you just need to somehow get your visa application to South Africa.
Okay.
So
Okay.
everyone
So
used to use post. It was
okay.
stressful, basically.
I can imagine. Thank God that now it's strictly online. So that
Yeah,
would
and
definitely
definitely.
be easier
And the
for a lot.
time, just to add, that was also the time that Nigeria had put a lot of restriction on international foreign transactions. So you can imagine that plus it was not easy. But yeah, thank God for the online application.
Yeah, thank God for that. So moving on to the next question, I would say, what challenges did you face when you were moving? Like specific challenges that you think are major things that a lot of people might encounter during their process of trying to apply to study and migrate to New Zealand as students. What would you say were the major challenges that you faced so someone can be or anyone can be aware and prepare ahead?
Yeah. I think the main challenge that everyone faces that comes to New Zealand, especially if it's your first time of coming to this area, is the travel,
Okay.
getting to New Zealand. But it's getting easier now. But back then it was not very easy. most of the border control people were not really aware of New Zealand. And that's one of the reasons why I made a video on travel routes as well, because it was not easy for me. But now people are getting to know it. It wasn't easy to find flights, and it wasn't easy to pay for flights too because of the federal government restrictions. So that's
Okay.
the one thing for me.
It was difficult to find a flight. I don't think. I think things have advanced beyond that at this moment. I want to believe
No,
that
yeah,
it will be easier
definitely. It's very easy now to find flights.
now.
But for me, so I hadn't been to this side of the world before. I didn't know people that have been to this side of the world before. It was difficult. But now
Hmm.
it's very easy. Just go online and get it.
Okay. Although I'm still aware that the distance is quite much if you're coming from anywhere in Africa, precisely Nigeria. It's quite a
Yeah,
long distance. How many days would you say you spent traveling to New Zealand?
you are going to be spending at least a day and a half.
Not so bad.
That is the fastest route, and that's why it's the most expensive as well.
Oh
If you want
wow.
to use the cheap route, just budget 50 hours.
That's something. That's an
Yeah,
adventure. 40
it's
days
an
of adventure.
adventure. That's why it's always I always tell anyone who cares to listen, when you are coming to New Zealand, make it at like an adventure. If you stress about so many
Hmm.
things, you're going to
The
hate
journey.
yourself when you get here.
Hmm.
Just keep an open mind. Whatever you see, adapt. It's a long journey. Yeah.
Okay. Now, okay, thank you so much for that. Let's move on to studying in New Zealand. I would like to know, I think my audience would also like to know what your academic experience was like. I mean, comparing it to the education system in Nigeria, what would you say is different about New Zealand academic experience?
First of all, you cannot compare it to Nigeria. It will be an unfair comparison because of it will be a very unfair comparison. But the quality, the scope of education, what we cover in terms of curriculum, is about the same
Yeah.
thing. However, what is different is the delivery, how this education is delivered. So most of, well, I'm speaking now, but I think things have advanced a bit. But in public universities, most of them are still a bit manual. We're still using whiteboards. Some people are this you have presentation slides and all that. But yeah, so that is Nigeria. But here in New Zealand, we have I can't really say, I'll talk from my PhD level. We had the labs and they were equipped with state-of-the-art equipment, I would say. And if you did not have those equipments, you can talk to your supervisor. If it's very essential for your research, then they can get it.
Okay.
If they cannot get it, they'll pay. You can go outside and subcontract it to whoever has it. So I think education here is very relaxed. You can call your lecturers by their name. In short, the lecturers actually told us not to call them by their title. You call them doctor, like, please call me by my name and their first names. So that is the difference. And I think that helps, especially as a PhD student where we're doing research. It helps you feel comfortable enough to think. But if you're going to
Very
meet
good.
your lecturer, your supervisor every time, and you're scared, oh, how do I talk? How do I sit? How do I this? Very trivial things. It will not give enough time to be creative, to be a researcher that you are. So that's one of the things that different.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So I would like to ask, we already covered a little bit about the financial aspect of studying in New Zealand, where you talked about you going as a PhD student, and that meant that you paid domestic student school fees. But of course, as bachelor's and master's degree students, you will be paying international fees, which is almost 3 times what domestic students pay. Now,
Yeah.
speaking to my audience who might be looking to come in as master's or bachelor's degree students, what kind of scholarship opportunities or financial support do you, based on your experience being there? Because there's a lot of master's degree in New Zealand.
The first will be the university scholarships, but they're highly competitive. So you really need to put your best foot forward. The
Like,
second would be international bodies, things like Schlumberger, Commonwealth scholarship. Yeah, yeah.
okay, so
And
you
then
Commonwealth scholarship?
You can, because New Zealand is a Commonwealth country. Yeah. So you
Okay.
can
Would
use
you say
Commonwealth
their
scholarship.
rate is high? And what does it cover really? You don't have to go into details.
I didn't get that question. I
I
think I'm
mean,
frozen.
would you say the acceptance rate is reasonably high? And what would you say it covers? You don't really have to go into detail, just briefly, so everybody knows and has an idea.
Acceptance rate into,
For the Commonwealth scholarship,
oh, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know right now. I think what whoever is interested, just go online to their website and do the search.
and check it
Research
out.
is very important. I think the mistake that people do is they just believe whatever they hear, hook, line, and sinker. Yes, most of us are, we share this
Guys, that
information,
seems
but
like you're blank. We can't see your face anymore, but we can hear
I
your voice.
can't, I'm frozen too. I don't know what's happening, honestly. Yeah, I look frozen here, but I can hear you talk. So
Can
I'm
you
not
see me?
really sure. I can see you, you're moving, but I am frozen.
Okay,
Okay,
okay. Well, we can hear you, which is
we are
the most
back.
important thing right now. So let's keep going.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
was saying that whoever is interested should go and do their research themselves. I'm not on top of that right now because I haven't checked.
Okay, okay. Of course, I'm sure that that information will be valuable. So anyone watching right now who is interested in applying for scholarships, I have a couple of videos already on my channel anyway that talks about some scholarships, but you could also go and do your research on Commonwealth scholarship. This is the first time I'm hearing about that, thanks to Sassy Engineer. So do well to do your research and look, more into that if you're looking at scholarship opportunities in New Zealand. Now, moving on, I would say as an African, as a Nigerian, what would you say? It was like adjusting to the culture and lifestyle in New Zealand based on where you're coming from. I mean, like culture shocks, things that we should be careful of or be aware of in terms of culture and lifestyle coming to New Zealand.
Yeah, I've been abroad. I've lived abroad before, so I don't. I can't. It wasn't difficult for me, but I still observed certain culture shocks. One thing is that New Zealand people are really nice, very friendly.
Mm.
Like they're not fake nice. They are nice, nice. So, so
That's very, very important to actually clarify the difference
yeah, they're
because
not fake nice. Yeah, they're genuinely nice and helpful. Does not mean that you should take advantage of them, which is what some people do sometimes, and that's the reason why some people don't usually want to help. They're nice,
yeah.
and I think what most people will struggle with is the time difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And people like to arrive and act like boss the next day they want to start their job or their school. Yeah, we are going to have jet lag. So rest. That's another thing. You are coming to the other side of the world. We are not called down on that for nothing. So you have jet lag, so rest. But that's
Okay.
the one thing I noticed was the time difference took a toll on a lot of people. They found it difficult to adjust to the time difference until
Okay.
they did adjust. We speak English, but everybody has a different way of speaking English. So, some people that come from Nigeria, from other African countries, may struggle to hear because of the
Oh,
accent.
the
Yeah,
accent. That's the New
yeah,
Zealand accent.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's interesting. Well, I would like to also ask, in terms of community, okay, coming to a place that is so far from home, there is nothing closer to home than having a community of people that are like you in that country. So, what would you say about the Nigerian and African or African community in New Zealand?
right. So, first of all, I like to say that I am the social secretary of the Nigerian Association of Nigeria
Ah,
of the Association of Nigerians in New Zealand. Yeah, so we have a community and it's quite
that's
vibrant and it is growing by the day. And we
mm,
try to bring our people together by doing, our Independence Day, some activities. We also welcome ideas from newcomers and we get people we help when let's say you are struggling with accommodation or, something, whatever you're struggling with. But we cannot help if people are not vocal about it. And coming from Nigeria, where if you talk about your problems, it's like it feels like you think people are going to laugh at you. So people don't like to talk about it. They like to struggle by themselves until when the matter is too much. And sometimes it's at the point where we cannot really do much than to just help you manage the situation. So yeah, we have a strong community here in New Zealand and it's growing.
I mean, from what you said, what one thing I pick is a closed mouth is a closed destiny. So if you have
Yes,
problems, you need help, speak up. And there
yes.
are people who are willing and able to actually support you. For everyone watching, make sure that even on your journey, you don't have to wait until you get to New Zealand before you start asking questions. Okay, right from wherever you are, make sure that you're open, asking questions. I know we have this thing where we don't want to announce our plans so
Yes,
that
because
village,
of village
but you can
people,
be discreet.
exactly. Yeah.
No, but you can be discreet, you know. You can be discreet while still doing your research and getting as much information as you can from people who actually are in a position to help you, not
Yes.
just random.
And sorry,
Okay.
before we move on, what you said about research is very important because another thing, another reason why some people do not like to help is because they find out that they are stretching themselves too much. There are some simple, basic research you should do yourself, which would then you can now know the kind of questions to ask.
Exactly, exactly. That's very important. I always say it on my channel. It's not enough to just watch YouTube videos or go on or just expect one person to give you all the information you want. You need to go out there and search for this information yourself. And let's be frank, a lot of people are actually very lazy and a lot of people don't want
Yeah,
to do this. But I
yeah,
promise you
I
that
know that for a fact. The kind of questions I get sometimes is, yeah.
yeah, it's like that. But I mean, I hope that most people watching this video now would understand that they need to put in the research. You need to put in the work. Okay, that's how you can get ahead and be different from a lot of people. Okay, now I would like to say, what would you say your experience was like working? I know you, as a PhD student, you are allowed to work full time, but would you say that there is a reasonable balance between work and study? How reasonable is it? Because I also remember you mentioned that it's a chill academic system, so there isn't so much pressure, and so it's easy to assume that it should be easy to work and school. But what would you say from your experience as someone living in New Zealand?
So, as someone living in New Zealand and as a former PhD student, for a PhD student, your contact, the relationship you have with anybody in this with the government, New Zealand and you is your supervisor. Your supervisor is if anything happens to you and the New Zealand government wants to look for you, it's your supervisor that will go to first. So same thing with work. You need to talk to your supervisor. They understand that you need to work. I mean, everybody's a migrant here. So and then agree on the balance, work out the balance. If you are doing masters and PhD, and sorry, and bachelors, that one is 20 hours. There's nothing you can do. Nobody, it's already fixed. You can't do more than what,
Yeah,
yes, it's legal. It's, yeah. But as a PhD student, your supervisor is who you should talk to. Of course, it's not everything you will tell your supervisor. There's something works that you don't want your supervisor to know about, but it's up to you to manage your time. However, if you're on a scholarship, especially the one that is provided by your supervisor, then your supervisor has a final say. Especially if they are paying you stipends, your supervisor could allow you to do work on the side. Some supervisors, and there are some supervisors who say no, you cannot work because you need to provide 40 hours to your research. So everything is
okay,
about balance. What having that good relationship with your supervisor and talking to them, and also minding how you say, it's not everything that you tell them, all those kind of things. So managing your
okay,
time is in your hands, but if you're on a funded scholar, if you're on a funded PhD, your supervisor has the final say.
final say.
Unless that
Okay,
that
oh,
unless that sorry, unless that funding is not by your supervisor or from the
okay.
university.
Thank you so much for that. Before we move on, could you leave the call and join? Looks like we can't see you, and I don't know, it's just all blank. Could you
Seriously?
leave? Could you leave the call and join again so we can
All
see
right, I'll
you?
do that. Okay.
Right. Thank you so much. See what's in the chat section. What's in the chat? Okay. Benga is saying good morning. Okay. Mm, Okay, there are a lot of comments here. Okay, so guys, if you can hear me, if you are currently on this live and you have any questions regarding everything that we have talked about or anything outside of what we've talked about that you need clarity on, feel free to leave comments in the chat section, okay? Leave your comments in the chat section, leave your questions in the chat section, and of course, we will do well to respond to your questions as soon as we can.
Can you
Okay,
see
looks
me
like
now?
she's back live. Oh, yes, we can see you clearly. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. So before you left, you were talking about the supervisor and how you need to be close to your supervisors just in case you need help. Okay, because they are like your number one contact as a student in New Zealand. Now, moving on, I would like to ask, considering your situation, if it's okay to share, how did you happen to come by a supervisor before you got into New Zealand? Because I'm aware that for PhD students, you would need to get a supervisor before you actually apply at all for most universities. So, what was the experience for you like getting a supervisor for your PhD? And what was the response rate like? Were they forthcoming? Were they responsive? And were you able to fund, or let's say, secure a scholarship for your study?
Yeah, so it was for me, it was a mix of both. Everything that you said happened. So I reached out to a lot of supervisors because I'm supposed to be a PhD student, I should be able to research, right? So I reached out to a lot of supervisors and asked them. First of all, I went to the universities that I wanted to apply to learn about the admission process for PhD students. And you're
Okay.
right, most of them require that you have a supervisor before you apply or while your application is under assessment. So I reached out to all the supervisors that I was interested in the research that they are doing, which basically means go to the faculty that you're interested in, look for the lecturer, read up about the lecturer, blah, blah, blah. And some of them were crickets, no response. Some of them responded, stopped responding. And then some of them responded. One actually told me that she has left the university and recommended another person. So, but yeah, so that's what I did for myself. And the supervisor I had reached out to me. No, actually, um, the one that left the university told me that I should just submit my application, that they usually do a kind of meeting and then
Okay.
they look at application for PhDs, doctoral students, and whoever is interested can select for those who don't have supervisors. But I don't think that's what they're doing again these days. But back then, that's what they did. So
Okay.
that's yeah. And then the person, my supervisor, reached out to me and was like, "I saw your proposal, blah 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 blah." But what I submitted as my proposal was not what I ended up doing in the end. Yeah. So that was what
There's a
worked for me. Yeah. But what I read from other when I learned from my other PhD students, because I asked questions as well to see if my experience was the same as theirs, was that they had to get a supervisor before they came. So yeah, it's different.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Well, it's good to note that based on what you said, there's a possibility that the proposal you submitted before getting admission might not be what you eventually follow through with as
Yes.
you become a
Yes.
student. But it's important that you put in effort, of course, because your proposal is more like your resume. Okay. This is you telling your potential supervisors that you are good enough to actually pursue a research program. So you need to put work into making sure that your proposal is top notch and make
Yes.
sure that you're solving a problem that is
Different.
valuable. Okay, not
Mm-hmm.
just a random topic. Make sure that the topic you're choosing is actually going to solve a real life problem, and this is going to
Definitely.
obviously improve the chances of securing a scholarship or even an admission and even getting a supervisor in general. All right, now moving on. What kind of jobs would you say are available for international students, especially those who are going to be working part time, say 20 hours per week? So, what kind of jobs are available for them while they study, say bachelor's and master's students?
Mhm. This is going to sound like something that's not the truth, but all
Mm,
jobs are available.
mm.
Now, the only difference
I like
is,
I
yeah,
like the
all
suspense.
jobs, all jobs are available. But what I have seen that is common amongst masters and bachelor students
Okay.
are the retail jobs where they work in malls, sorry, at malls, departmental stores, supermarkets. Supermarkets is very common for secondary school students, but you could see a few undergraduates here and there. What for undergraduates is typically retail job, sales job, or they go
Okay.
into traffic management or
But are
event
these jobs
management.
enough to actually sustain students? Say the retail jobs, for example. Is it enough to sustain them based on? I mean, this would obviously lead to our next question, talking about living expenses. But generally, do you think working a retail job can actually sustain students in New Zealand?
Yeah, but then again, it depends on your lifestyle. If you want to live lao lao, definitely it's not going to sustain you. So it depends on the lifestyle of the person in question. If you're doing that to cover your tuition fee, um, it's going to be difficult, to be honest. But yeah,
Okay.
it's going to be difficult, to be very frank. But people have done it, and you can tell. You see when you see them, you know that this person is going through a lot. So, so yeah, it's going to be difficult if you're doing that to pay tuition fee. But if you're
Okay.
doing that just to maintain, live a normal life, it will depend on your lifestyle and where you choose to live. So you need to look at how much am I making, how much do I have, where can I live? Do you need to get a three-bedroom apartment, or do you need to share a flat? Do I need to
Yes.
go partying every other weekend, or do I need to cut down on this? Do I need to shop online every day? So everything will now come to how good are you with your finances? Yeah.
How
But
you
during
can
the
manage.
holidays, you can work full time. So people
Okay.
usually
Yes.
make up for
Very,
that
very
during
aware of
that
that.
time. Yeah.
Yes, so okay, thank you so much for that. For everyone watching, based on what she has said, it's important that you are aware that your job as a, let's say, a bachelor's degree student may only sustain you for maybe your living expenses, but it's more advisable that you have some kind of preparation, you've made some preparation for your tuition fee before coming to New Zealand. So it might be very difficult for you to pay your tuition fee, pay your rent, cost of living, as well as your tuition fee on top of your part-time jobs. It can be hard. However, if you are a PhD student, like we have already discussed in this video, you can work full-time. So this means that you have no limit to how much you can actually make, provided you're able to, be studious, still deliver on your academics, because essentially that is what brought you to New Zealand. Thank you so much for that. Now, moving on to living expenses. On the average, compared to other countries of the world, would you say, what would you say the living expenses are like in New Zealand? Would you say it's on the high?
I lost you there. Hello? Hmm. Hello?
Can you see me? Can you hear me? Is it still frozen?
Oh,
Oh yes, I can hear you now. Oh, thank
I don't
goodness.
know what's
Hello?
happening. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you and I can see you
What can you see? My face?
now. No, it's blank. Can we see her? Yes, I can see.
I
I
can't
can
see
see you.
my face, honestly. I'm black, but it's okay.
I can't
I don't know
really
what
hear
is
you.
wrong with the internet right now. What's going on?
Okay, are you there?
I'm here, but I cannot see me, but I think I can hear you.
Yes.
How's that?
Okay, we can see and we can hear you now. Can you see and hear me?
I can see and hear you, but I
Okay,
cannot see I cannot see me. That's okay.
it's okay. Let's wrap up so that we don't keep you
This
long. I can imagine that the network is very unstable today.
I don't know
Okay,
what's happening. Yeah. It's okay, go on.
Okay, so let's wrap up now. Going to the last phase of questions that we're going to be asking. It's going to be about immigration opportunities and immigration pathway in general. We've talked about education. Now, how can education become an immigration pathway for a lot of people looking to migrate to New Zealand permanently? So, in your own understanding, based on your experience, can you briefly give us options that are available for students after graduation to actually remain in New Zealand after their studies?
The only option, well, I wouldn't say the only option. Well, there are two options,
Okay.
actually three. Um, postgraduate study, postgraduate, post-study work, yeah, post-study work visa.
Okay.
That's one. But that depends on what you study for certain levels. For us, from bachelor and above, you get the full time, but from diploma, it's selective. Then you have the work visa if you get a job.
Okay.
And then you also have, this is going to sound very controversial, the partnership visa. If you end up getting entangled with a New Zealander or a resident or a permanent resident, that's another one. Can you still hear me?
Okay, you're breaking up. It's not very clear.
My goodness. Okay, so you have the standard one, which is a post-study work visa.
Okay.
Then you have a work visa if you happen to get a job before you finish.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's not very common, but it happens. And then you have the one that I said is a partnership visa if you happen to have some entanglement with a New Zealand citizen or resident. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, those are the options available. There's another one if you have some like talent, global talent visa, but that is also highly scrutinized. Like what I mean by highly scrutinized is you need to really stand out to show that you have the talent.
Mm. All right, thank you so much for that. And I'm very aware that you have a lot of a lot of videos on your channel talking about visa options and all of that. So if you're watching me
Yeah.
right now, you guys, and you are looking to get even in-depth information about visa applications, the kinds of visas, the requirements, the cost, and all you need to know as a student trying to migrate permanently to New Zealand, then you should check out her channel, the Sassy Engineer. I have left links in the description box below. Okay, so all you have and you can watch those videos. I'm sure that they will be very, very informative because I myself have watched a lot of them. I mean, when I started researching on New Zealand, your content were one of the very first set of contents to come up, and they have been very helpful to me. So I'm very sure that a lot of my viewers will also find value in those videos. Now, finally, before we
Thank
wrap this up,
you.
what would you say are some of the myths and misconceptions that a lot of people have about New Zealand, both the good, the bad, generally, and how can you say differently coming from someone who lives in New Zealand?
Number one, we are not Australia. New Zealand is New Zealand, Australia is Australia.
For the
Because I have a lot of
longest
people.
time, New Zealand is not Australia.
Yeah, that is the very first one.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't really know of any other one though. It's just really the Australia New Zealand banter. Oh, number two is the earthquake.
There's
The
something
earthquake.
how big or small and how much fun can one have in New Zealand based on your experience? Is it, are there opportunities to have fun for people who like outgoing and who have an outgoing lifestyle in general? Is there a place for people like that in New Zealand, or is it simply for the couch potatoes? Let's know more.
Uh-uh. So New Zealand, New Zealand is an adventure capital. Most people that come here, its selling point is the outdoors. A lot of the rings was shot here. Avatar was shot. No, more
Okay.
Mulan was shot here. So we have the scenery. If you're into outdoor, if you're into adrenaline activities like jumping out of a plane, jumping over a cliff,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
walking across mountains for 8 hours days, then New Zealand is a place for you. In terms of outgoing again, in terms of partying, it varies on what your taste is because
Okay.
yeah, they that scenery is also good. Yeah.
Thank you
So
so
New
much.
Zealand, if you're an outgoing person, you will definitely have something to do. And everywhere you can drive from the top of New Zealand to the south of New Zealand in a day, but you need a whole day. And that's if you don't stop, which is not possible to be honest. So yeah, it's a fun place. Yeah. One other misconception is the earthquake. People think that we have earthquake, serious magnitude of earthquake every other day. It's not that. No, it's not. Yeah. You will feel certain tremors, at least, sometimes very mild. It depends on where you live. I think it's
Okay.
because of the last earthquake we had in Christchurch in 2011. So people are still a bit skeptical about that. But everybody has moved on. And we have a lot of live volcanoes here, but they are not active. I would say active volcanoes, but they are not erupting anytime soon. So it's fine.
Thank you for mentioning that because I mean it's something to be worried about. But at the end of the day, I feel like wherever you go, there will be some form of issues that you have to deal with. There will be some challenges, even natural disasters. Okay, so all you just have
Yes,
to do be positive, be optimistic. That is one thing I always tell my subscribers. Do not, center your decisions on the negative aspects of a thing. Look at the positives as
exactly.
and work towards it, and the sky will be your starting point. So at this point, I would say thank you so much, the Sassy Engineer, for this amazing session. I mean, it's really refreshing to hear this from someone who is currently in New Zealand. And I'm very certain that we've not answered every single question there is because it would be impossible to do that in just one live session. However, that's why I have always said on this video that you should go to her channel. She has a lot of videos. She has a lot of videos that you can watch to get abreast of the happenings in New Zealand regarding, let's say, work, jobs, school visas, everything related to New Zealand. And I also share content on my channel about New Zealand and of course any country at all that you might be looking to migrate to. So at this point, if you have questions, feel free to leave them or comment in the chat section. And of course, I will go back to respond to those questions as soon as we're done with this live. And thank you so much, Sassy. At this point, I would say
Yeah,
take care
thank
of
you.
yourself and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
thanks for having me. It was really nice chatting with you as well.
It's a pleasure, and hopefully we can catch up after this live. Because I
Yes.
personally have questions to ask you. So yeah, we can catch up after. Much.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunate for the technical issues, but otherwise it was a very nice chat.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We understand. I mean, things happen, right? Yeah. So, for my subscribers, thank you for watching. Thank you for viewing up until this point. As usual, you know the drill. Click the like button, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment if you have questions. And I will be sure to answer your questions as soon as I can. And if you would like to reach out to our amazing guest, like I always said, the details will be in the description box. Okay, so feel free to click and go check her out. And until my next video, guys, stay kind, stay blessed. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.